Hello, Pasquale. How are you today?
Very good, thank you.
I'm glad for that. So today we're going to talk about something really interesting. It is about your immigration story. And there are some questions that we would like to know your answers about them.
Sure.
Amazing. We would like to know firstly, when and why did you decide to move to England?
To England, London. I moved to London in 2015. Okay. At the time I was about 22 years old. And the main reason is because in Italy at the time there was a period where I felt a little bit suffocated, the mentality that was around of people, it was pretty much negative, and I just didn't feel I was belong to that. That was my opinion at the time when I was a little bit younger, and I decided I just want to have a new experience and meet new people and have new experiences, trying to look for a new job and learn a new language like English. And that's the main reason that has brought me from Italy to London.
Why was it London exactly though? For example, why did you have this special desire to go in London? It was random.
Well, no, never been in London before. You know what happened? It happened that at the time I was working for a company, and there was this guy I met a couple of weeks before. And while we were having a conversation, he told me about London. And he told me, actually, I've been in London for 6 months and I want to go back there. And I met that guy in that period where I was struggling with what I wanted to do in my life, and the moment he mentioned London, something just triggered in my mind, in my heart, in my bones, and I just felt that going to London was the right thing to do. But as I said, I'd never been in London before, so it was not gambling, but it was a big challenge. Never been in that city, and I don't know how to speak English properly. I don't know anybody from there, so it took me a month. So my last month at work, I remember I spent most of the time to research about London. So when I moved to London the first day, I kind of knew London like I was there before.
From the researches.
Yeah.
But what was your biggest struggle as an immigrant in the beginning? Was it like you expected? Was it London that great? Or what happened? Like, how was it?
Well, my biggest struggle was also the best thing that happened to me. All right. So when I moved to London, of course, I didn't know the city. I didn't know the people. I didn't have a job. I didn't know how to speak English. And literally every single street was new to me, right? I remember when we first moved to London, me and my other two guys that I met just a month before in Italy, we rented a hostel. And this hostel, because it was the cheapest option for us, we didn't have much money. I moved to London with 2,000 euro in the pocket and 500 euro in cash given by my mom on the last day, on the last night before I left. So we booked a hostel. We were 11 people in this hostel. It was 11 beds in one bedroom, right? 11 beds. So imagine the struggle. You are there with your suitcases and you have to leave them there in the same room as another 9 people that you don't know who they are, right? Where they come from and what their intention is about your suitcases, right? So every time was just struggle, like I'm gonna leave to look for a job and discover the city a little bit and do my paperwork. And if I will come back home, will I still find my suitcase? So the first days, that was the main struggle. Many people in the bedroom. Of course, the bathrooms were sharing bathrooms. I've seen rats going around the bathroom for real, and my suitcases were safe. So the first few days, that was my biggest struggle, I would say.
Pasquale, can you recall who helped you in the beginning when you first moved there?
It's a very good question, actually, because the answer is nobody, myself. Imagine you move in a new city, never been there before, and you need to find a job, you need to get your paperwork sorted, you need to learn a new language, you need to meet new people. Of course, London is there are plenty of nice people, right? If you are on the street and you're looking for a direction, people are always there and are happy to help you, right? Sometimes they even take you, if it's a 5 or 10 minutes walk, they take you in a place where you have to go. They're very nice people, very kind people. Of course, the most important things, it was only with myself. I remember the time spent on a bus, because at the time, of course, I didn't have much money. So the bus was the only transportation I was taking, and I used to spend a lot of time in the buses because of the traffic in London is terrible. And I remember I spent a lot of time in the bus, reading books with myself, listening to music, and that gave me a lot of time to meditate with myself on what I really wanted to achieve in this experience in London. I didn't want to be one of those people who they move to London for 2, 3, 6 months and then they leave and they come back and they are the same guys and they don't even speak English properly, right? Or they haven't put their life in a new level. So I didn't want to be that guy. So I remember I was spending a lot of time with myself just to think about and visualize where I wanted to go and who I wanted to become. And then of course with a bit of time I started to create my close circle of people, right? Trusted people. One of them, it was my neighbor, Dower, which was still friend. I have a lot of respect for him. He helped me a lot, especially into finding a new job, and we're maybe gonna talk about it later on. And the close circle of friends that I built and I still have today. And you know, we were all there for the same reason, you know, move in a new country, new city, learning the language and start new jobs and experiences. So it was beautiful because we kind of all help each other to achieve our personal things, you know. And that was a beauty. Yeah. I wish I could go back in the time.
So you mentioned that it was really tough in the beginning to find a job because of a lot of barriers that you previously mentioned yourself. But what is the first job and then another one if you had before starting your own business that you still have to these days?
Well, imagine when you move in a new country and city and you don't speak the language, and I haven't finished my university, I don't have my master's degree, so I didn't have a preparation of what kind of job I really was prepared to do. It was a little bit of a challenge. So hospitality was one of the main options, right, for people who move into London and they don't really have a degree. So I remember that my dream since the first few days in London was to become the best bartender in London. So I wanted to be very, very good in bartending. So my first job was a bartender. It was an area called Chelsea, which is currently my best area, favorite area in London, where I currently live. Okay, and it was my dream at the time. And I found a nice, classy burger restaurant, okay, with bar, where I was working as a bartender. So they were doing burgers, very expensive burger, by the way. It was like $25, $30 burger, and I was just a bartender. At the time I have applied, and in my CVs, of course, it was full of experiences as a bartender because I had to find a job, right? My money in my pockets were, you know, getting over, and I had to find a job. So I remember I just changed my CV a little bit. I mentioned that I had some experiences as bartending back in Italy, in disco club and everything. So, and I was learning online how to do cocktails, how to do cappuccinos, how to do espresso, right? How to do everything, so that if they would ask me a question, I would at least have some sort of knowledge to engage a conversation. So what I did basically, I remember I printed out 50 CVs, right? They were all unreal. I mean, the experience was not really there. I printed out 50 CVs, and what I did, I just selected a couple of areas in London where I wanted to work, and a few places that I Googled, the reviews were good, you know, and all of this. So I made some researches, and I went one by one with my printed CVs to leave all the CVs. That was on the first 4 days in a row. I left 50 CVs, and I was exploring the city a little bit. The first place that called me was this Hache, okay? There was this manager, Basia, which we are still good friends. I remember she called me and said, come over, I saw that you left a CV with one of my assistants. I'm in the bar at the moment, so just come over so we can have a conversation. And I remember I was just reaching my hostel, and then she called me, so I went back. All right, I was very excited. I said, okay, I got my first call. So I sit there, my English was very bad, like very bad. And she was asking me a few questions about, you know, where I was from and what kind of experiences I had. And I remember I had to lie, of course, on my experiences. And on my English, of course, my level of English was pretty much almost C1. That was on my CV, but my English was a disaster. And she told me, listen, your level of English is not the level we're looking for, and I can tell that you don't have experiences as a bartender. And I don't know how she found out, and but she told me, I like you, I want to give you an opportunity. So you need to learn English within 1 month, and you need to learn everything about bartending in 1 month. So she gave me deadlines, and we have pre-booked the next meeting on where we were supposed to sit again and see what was the situation in 30 days. So I remember those 30 days I was rushing so much on learning English and learn everything about how to become a good bartender. And I succeeded, and I was very happy, and I kept the employment ongoing. But that was my first job, and I spent there 1 year. And then after 1 year, I moved into Gaucho restaurant. Gaucho restaurant is a big chain of steakhouse restaurant from Argentina, and they're pretty strong in London. And for a bartender, it was a kind of a privilege to work for a restaurant like this. Of course, there are better places, right? But Gaucho for me was a good place. I learned a lot about hospitality in the time, and I spent another year over there. It was a good time.
Pasquale, who would you say that impacted your life the most?
This makes me think, actually, because I believe that there are honestly a lot of people that have impacted my life the most. Different stages, no, in my life. And I remember, if now we're talking about employment, I start as a bartender, and then I move into estate agents, And I remember the day I was going for an interview, and by the way, there was my 7th interview that I was gonna go, right, to, because the first 6 they reject me, they didn't take me as an estate agent for different reasons, right? Experience and level of English, and maybe they didn't like me, as simple as that. I remember that day where I almost gave up. I said, okay, we're gonna give it another try, and I took a Uber. The application Uber in London works, is everywhere basically. I took a Uber, the driver comes, and he takes me to the interview. It was like a 40 minutes ride. And he started to ask me, you're dressing up very nicely. I had a suit and tie, I was trying to be as much as presentable as possible, right? And where are you going? I said, I'm going for an interview. How do you feel about it? So we started to engage into a nice conversation. He was a very nice guy. He was a man, like 45, 50 years old man. So I said, I'm going for an interview. How do you feel about it? And I said, I don't know, because I just got rejected another 6 times, and I don't think after this one I ever gonna try to be an estate agent again. I was a little bit demotivated, and I usually am not. So I remember we were in the car, and he asked me, what makes you anxious? What makes you concerning about this interview? And I said, it probably is my level of English. I know that in this kind of job they need a lot of people that they speak English properly, right? And I remember that he stopped the car, and I was like, what this guy is doing, And he stopped the car, and he looked at me. And from the window, right, from the mirror. And I said, and then he turned the face, so he looked at me, and I said, what's going on? And he said, listen, my man, where are you from? And I said, I'm Italian. I said, great. And he was like, with the upset face, like, he didn't like English people, right? Because he wasn't English. And he said, listen, where are you from? I said, I'm Italian. Okay, great. So do you speak Italian? And I said, yes, I speak Italian. Do you speak English? Because we are speaking English right now. I said, yes, I speak English. I understand it, and I can talk a little bit. I said, great. So these people from a estate agent, they're all English. And guess how many languages they speak? And I said, this guy is trying to say even. And I said, I don't know how many languages they speak. They speak one language, because English people, they always speak one language. And I said, okay. At the beginning, I wasn't understanding the point. And then he said, how many languages do you speak? And I said, okay, wait a moment. Now I'm understanding where he's coming from. And I said, I speak 2 languages. And he said, yes, you speak 2 languages. So this already makes you better than them in terms of languages. Then if your level of English is not that good yet, it's going to become better. But you should go to this interview confident that you're going to pass it, and you need to make them realize that you know 1 extra language than them. And that was crazy, because all of this was in a car with a Uber driver that I don't know who is this guy. And that was very impactful for me. You know what has actually taught me? To see things from a different perspective. Yeah, sometimes people, they always see things from one perspective, and this doesn't allow them to see the other view, right? Sometimes it just takes a moment you to move and see things from different perspective, that your all angles open up, no? And this is what I do in business today and with the people I have around me. I always see things from a different perspective, and I always try to have a vision as much as far away and big and large as possible.